Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and welcome back to the Self-Publishing School podcast. I'm your host. Today, we're trying something new with a solo episode. All right, so we've got a solo episode coming at you today with some practical tips on how to get started with your book, plus a really exciting opportunity and something we've never offered before that I think you might like. Stay tuned for the announcement on that. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. If you like this format, let us know in the reviews on the podcast. We're going to start reading off reviews from folks. We're reviewing the podcast, so let us know if you like this episode or if there's something else in a format that you like better. Now, obviously, publishing a book is one of the most empowering things that you can do as an entrepreneur, and it's going to help you share your expertise, and it's going to help you build authority. The root word of authority is author. A lot of people become an authority by first becoming an author, right? You probably know that or are interested in that. That's why you listen to this show, right? Week in, week out, where we're interviewing the most successful authors on the planet and talking about how they've done that, but not only how they've published successfully, but in a lot of cases, how they've used a book to grow their business, right? So I'm going to start in this episode by addressing some of the main doubts and fears that keep people from getting their book done. All right. Now, one of the biggest ones that I hear is, who am I to write a book? And what if I don't have enough expertise or my story isn't unique enough? All right. Well, here's the truth. Your story and your knowledge, they are unique and they are worth sharing. Even, a lot of times people think they search around on books in their topic and they say, well, there's already a book on this. There's already been a book written on this subject. Too late. I can't do this. Right. Well, I always tell people, I was in Scouts growing up. I was in the Boy Scouts, and I remember we were camping one time. We were out in the woods and we're tying up our stuff out on limbs and trees, right? And for those of you who haven't been camping, you don't know why we're doing that, right? But we're tying up our stuff, our packs. And the reason, and I asked my Scoutmaster, I said, hey, why are we doing this? He said, well, because there's bears, right? And they'll come at night and they'll rip our food and steal our food. But if we hang it on these limbs, they can't get it, right? I'm like, well, okay, well, what if we see a bear in the woods? And he said, well, Chandler, you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than your friend. If we run into a bear, you just got to outrun your friend. And you might be thinking, what does this have to do with writing a book? Well, when it comes to writing and publishing a book, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know a little bit more than the person that you're teaching, right? And so if you're intimidated thinking, hey, who am I to write this book? Well, you've got knowledge to share, right? Maybe you've got hours, decades, years of experience in your topic or in your thing that you can share with other people, right? Now, another big fear is not being good enough as a writer. I'm a perfect example of this. I'm a C-level English student and a college dropout with ADHD. So kind of on the least likely to succeed list when it comes to writing and publishing a book. So you don't have to be an incredible writer if you use our More Writing method, okay? The More Writing method is an acronym. It stands for mind map, outline, rough draft, and editing. Now, this is a process that I go into depth on in my book called Published. And it's also something that we go into detail on in our programs. And I'll tell you about an exciting opportunity to give a go at one of those later in this episode. All right. Now, the last thing a lot of people wonder is, hey, okay, I might be able to write this, but I hate sales and marketing. Like, how am I actually going to be able to market this successfully? So really, I want to break down 5 powerful reasons that you need to publish a book and hopefully convince you to finally get started on that book today. All right. Because if you're listening to this or watching this, you've likely been thinking about doing this book for years, maybe even decades, right? But it's time to get started. So number one, this book's going to establish you as an authority and a thought leader. All right. I mentioned earlier in the episode, the root word of authority is author. For a lot of people, they first become an authority by becoming an author, right? Number two, it's going to help you spread your message and reach a wider audience. I talk about this concept all the time. You can see this if you're watching the video version over my left shoulder here, which is leveraged impact, right? You do the work once to create a book, and that book goes on to impact thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even millions of people, right? So that helps you scale your message beyond you. And then moving into reason number 3 here, it helps you attract new clients, all right, and new high-paying clients. This can help you attract leads. This can help you book speaking gigs, consulting gigs. We have whole trainings on how to use a book to grow your leads, sales, and referrals. And I've seen firsthand, this book, my book, Published, has generated millions of dollars for my business and has brought in millions, if not at this point, tens of millions of dollars in clients for selfpublishing.com, right? That moves into reason number 4, which is to diversify your income streams, right? You're going to earn royalties from this book book. Now, you're probably not going to get rich overnight, but imagine 3 years from now, you sell 100 books in a random month, right? That's a couple $100 in that month. And I call this mailbox money, right? Is that those checks just keep showing up monthly for a really long time. It's one of the truest forms of passive income that I've ever seen and been a part of personally, right? And then number 5, it builds your brand and visibility. All right. There's no greater tool for growing your brand, your influence, and all those things than creating a book, publishing a book, launching it successfully, all those things. So I'm excited to walk you through a step-by-step process for going from idea to published in as little as 90 days. All right. And so that's kind of the opportunity that we're going to present you with and hopefully be able to come alongside you over the next 90 days with your book. All right. So here's how we're going to make it happen. And here's what we're going to do. So first, we're going to start by spending time crafting your book concept and your niche. All right. We call this the 4 P's of a best-selling book: person, pain, promise, price. All right. We need to nail that first and get focused before you start writing, because that's going to help you write a better book that sells more copies and grow your business. All right. And then when we get to writing, we're going to walk you through some powerful systems that'll help you write a quality book faster. Okay. This will save you hundreds of hours in the process. I can promise you that. And depending on how much you value your time, that's likely thousands of dollars worth of time that you'll save throughout the process. We'll even give you a 25-page Google Doc customized outline that you can start to work from for your book. All right. Then we're going to dive into the publishing process. Okay. So how do you create a good cover? How do you get your ISBN, get published, keep all the royalties, all those things? And then finally, and this might be the most important part, we're going to help you launch the book. Okay. And so we're going to focus on the book launch process, the book launch checklist, the plan. There's a lot of things that you can do. What are the handful of things that you should do that will actually move the needle? All right. And then lastly, we're going to guide you through the step-by-step process to actually get this book published. All right. So that's what we're going to do as part of this program and as part of this process. And obviously, as you can see, this whole process is attainable if you put in the work and if you get started. Okay. How we'd like to help you is by doing something I don't know that we've ever done, or at least not since like the early days of selfpublishing.com. And so all you have to do is go to selfpublishing.com/course right now, all right, and register for our next Bestseller Author Blueprint Challenge. All right, this is the fastest path to accomplishing your publishing goals, to launching successfully, and we're excited to help you through this challenge and through this course over the next 90 days. All right, now let's get back into the episode with some more tips on how to grow your business using a book. So now we've covered kind of the basics of getting your first book published. So let's dive into some tips and strategies to maximize the impact from the book. All right. So once you've got your book in hand, there's a bunch of things that you can do to generate revenue from the book. All right. There's a whole chapter I go into in my book Published where I talk about exactly this. Okay. It's chapter number 25 where we talk about growing your business using a book. All right. Page 210 in Published, chapter 25. Check that out. But I'll walk through a few tips here today on this episode. Number 1, hosting a book launch event and using that to attract local media, publicity, etc. Now, this does a few things. This is going to help you, sell books on site. This will help you also lead collect, grow your email list, all those things. But probably most importantly, it helps create PR and media, which brings credibility to your brand, your business, and is a marketing asset that you can use for future things, right? And one of the biggest things that we see people have success with is podcast interviews for your book launch, and not only for your book launch, but after your book, all right? The days of going on TV shows and the Today Show and all that stuff, that's the thing that, a lot of people probably still dream about, but it used to be a lot more popular, right? That's over. People still want to do that, but a lot of the most savvy authors have just discovered that it doesn't move books, right? What truly moves books, if you want to do media appearances that move books, is we call this a virtual book tour, right? It's going on relevant podcasts. All right, with relevant podcasts, relevant radio shows, maybe even some local PR, but mostly it's podcast interviews. Because if you think about it, when people are watching TV, they're in a passive entertainment mode. And when they're listening to a podcast, they're in active learning mode. All right. And so it's a huge difference. And especially because if I'm actively learning and I hear from an author that I want to actively learn from, and they just talk about how they just published their book, how much more likely do you think I'm going to be to actually buy that book versus having the Today Show on in the background in the morning? growing, right? So that's the second thing that you can use to not only sell more books to grow, but to grow your business using a book. And then the third thing is running ads, okay? Running ads to your book. Now there's several ways to do this. We will teach you all of this in our program, all right? So we'll talk through how do you set up Amazon ads, because go where book buyers are, right? Where are the book buyers? 70% of them, of all books sold, it's a crazy stat, are sold on Amazon. So you should be in that marketplace where they can one-click purchase your book, right? And setting up ads to do that. But then also beyond that, Facebook and Instagram ads, to not only to sell books, but we have a lot of free plus shipping funnels, if you've ever heard of that. I also walk through that concept in this book and in our course. But free plus shipping funnels are one of the best ways to move books, but in a way that grows your business. Okay, so we'll walk through that. And then a few more things. So kind of go rapid fire through a few more ways to grow your business using your book. So offer your book as a free bonus when people sign up for your email list, or maybe as part of a paid program. This is going to get you a lot more leads and help you grow your email list, grow your business. Right? Now, another thing you can do is approach vendors and partners about bundling your book with their products or services. All right. So you can do a joint promo, or whenever I go to speak at events, we always bring books and give them away, right? It makes the conference organizer look good. And then people are all around the event saying, what's that red book that I keep seeing everywhere, right? They come up to the booth, they talk to us. A lot of them end up working with us, right? Now, another thing you can do is send copies to influencers and key leaders in your industry, but also include a personalized note, all right? So that can lead to organic promotion or just opening up new relationships with influencers and partners. We do this all the time. I did this with the launch of Published. We do this all the time. It's really, really effective, right? And then another thing is to negotiate affiliate or joint venture deals, all right? To open up new marketing channels, new audiences, all that stuff. Partnership marketing, we have trainings on this and we've given talks on this at Author Advantage Live. This is one of the fastest growing parts of our business. This has grown from about $2 million last year as a customer acquisition channel to we'll do about $5 million this year from partnerships, right? And sure, a book is a starting point for a lot of those partnerships or integrated into those partnerships, but it helps us move books, but more importantly, it helps us grow the business using a book, right? And then lastly is creating a speaking page on your website to get booked at conferences, for corporate talks, all that stuff. And you can build books. We've got other episodes on the podcast. We've got one with Carlos Whitaker, which is really good about selling books using speaking, but we've got one with Grant Baldwin on getting booked and paid to speak, like multiple episodes on this podcast you should check out that are specific to speaking and using speaking to sell books. But you can either bundle book sales into the actual talk, or, kind of like I mentioned previously, use the talk to give away a ton of books and sign up a lot of clients for your business. All right. So as you can probably see, there's a lot of really creative and interesting ways to grow your business using a book, right? And a lot of people say a book is a new business card. Well, I think a book is better than a business card, because when you give away a business card, let's just be real, people are probably going to throw that business card away within 24 hours, right? But if you give them a book, they keep it. And every time they see that book, they think of you and they think of your business. All right. So I would encourage you. A lot of people think about the launch of the book, but they don't think about launching the book in tandem with using that launch to grow the business. It can really be just a game changer when it's done right. So if you want to learn more about this stuff, again, go to selfpublishing.com/course and sign up right now so we can help you implement this stuff with your launch, with your business. All right. Now I want to go into a Q&A portion. I've got a couple questions from listeners that I want to ask here, and I want to start embedding these in future episodes. So again, if you like this part of the show, if you think that this should be included in future episodes, let me know in a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. All right. Our first question is from Amanda. She says, what tips do you have for staying motivated and consistent when writing a book with a busy schedule? This is a tough one. And if you've listened to this podcast for a while, we've interviewed multiple busy moms, busy business owners, and there's a lot of different strategies around this that some of the best, most successful authors have shared. Pretty interesting. But I've got a few specific recommendations here, Amanda. So one is, and I talk about this in Published, is set a daily or weekly word count goal that fits your schedule. All right. Even if it's just 500 words or maybe 1,000, if you write 1,000 words a day, well, then guess what? In 30 days, you've got about 30,000 words written. That's most of the length of a book. book, right? So what I'd encourage you to do is check out, let's see here, it's chapter number 7. I talk about the 30-day rough draft challenge. So chapter 7 in published 30-day rough draft challenge. And I talk about not only setting these daily word counts, but also, and I'll kind of bundle this in with another tip I wanted to give here, do writing sprints and build it into your schedule. Okay. This is the most important thing, is to say, all right, I think this book is going to be about, let's call it 50,000 words. All right. Now let's break that down into my daily, weekly writing goals, and then put it in your schedule so that it gets done. All right. And then a couple more things that might be helpful. So is firstly, play to your strengths. So when is your peak energy times? Is it in the morning? Perfect. Wake up early, work on your book. Is it in the afternoon or evening? Do that. Right? But schedule it and stick to that schedule. And then one of the things that I like to encourage people to do is track progress and post daily with a word count. All right. Now, this is part of the 30-day rough draft challenge I talk about and publish, but it does two things. Number one, it keeps you publicly accountable. But number two, it helps you celebrate the milestones and wins along the way. And then kind of an added benefit is that you're building buzz for your launch, right? People are kind of cheering you on, and that's going to help you have a more successful launch when you launch. All right. And then last couple tips here, actually, I'll just give one more, is find an accountability partner. Okay. Just like, committing to the gym or losing weight or stopping smoking, or, this is why the Alcoholics Anonymous program is so successful with getting people to stop drinking, right? It's because there's built-in accountability. So find an accountability partner at selfpublishing.com. A lot of times this is our coaches, but also we encourage people inside the community to link up and have an accountability partner where you're either have a weekly meeting, or maybe you've got a daily text like, hey, I got my 1,000 words done, that sort of thing. And this could be really helpful there. All right. So the key is figuring out a routine and a schedule that's sustainable for you. This is not just 1 week of, oh my gosh, I'm going to write everything, and then you fall off a cliff, right? And don't do it anymore. It's what's that sustainable schedule? And if you fall off, which you will, just get back on track and make that next little bit of progress. All right. So next question is from Simone. So Simone asks, what are the most important parts of a book launch plan if I am self-publishing? All right. So this is really, really important. I see a lot of authors make the mistake of they'll spend, months, years writing a great book. And then when it comes time to the launch, they'll just upload it and not tell anyone, or upload it and post one time and say, hey, my book's live. I'd love for you to buy it. Right? Wrong. That is the absolute wrong way to do this. Now, I've got a lot that I could cover here, but I want to point you to a few key concepts. All right. And I'm going to go back to published here. So there's the launch, like the prep for the launch. And I call this the fundamentals of a bestseller. All right. So this is making sure that you've got all the fundamentals set up properly. Because if you don't follow the fundamentals, then nothing else you do will matter, right? Or it might matter, but it's just pouring water into a leaky bucket. But then you want to look at what are the two types of launches. So we talk about the MVP launch, the minimum viable product launch, but then also the traditional launch. Really important, two distinct differences. But then it's not just about launching successfully, which we've got, what I talk about, this is a launch triangle, is it's promotions, it's reviews, and it's a launch team. All right. And so those three things are really, really important. All right. So make sure that you've got good promotions lined up. All right. That you get reviews and that you have a launch team. If you do nothing else, just do those three things. And there's a lot more in-depth details that we'll talk about in our course that we're launching that will be helpful for you. And I'll also talk about this in the book. Okay. So those are kind of the core tenets. Make sure that you follow the fundamentals of a bestseller. Make sure that you launch intentionally by focusing on those three things. What are the promotions that you have? Making sure that you have a launch team, and making sure that you get reviews, and creating buzz around the launch. All right. All of those things are really, really important. I could talk about this for about 7 other podcast interviews, and we have talked about this on dozens of podcast interviews. So if you want to learn more from obviously the most successful authors on the planet, go and check out a couple other episodes on this podcast that are related to launching successfully. All right. We talk about this a lot, and you can hear a few of those, tips in other episodes as well. All right. So hope that's helpful, Simone. As you can see, proper planning, proper execution when it comes to a book is super important. Okay. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So you got to treat your launch week, but also this book as this big milestone, because it is, right? We always talk about as a company, we help facilitate one of the 3 biggest days in someone's life, right? There's probably, the day that you got married, maybe the day that you had a kid or kids, if you've had kids, and then the day that you actually get this book published. All right. So this is a big day, and you need to plan accordingly and be intentional about the launch of this book. All right. So if you want me to answer questions live on future episodes, all you have to do is leave a comment on our YouTube channel or leave a comment or question in a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. All right. So go ahead and do that right now. If you have a question that you want me to answer or cover in a future episode, we would love to integrate your questions into these episodes to make sure that these interviews and podcast episodes are as helpful as possible. All right. Well, that's all we have time for today. A big thanks to Amanda and Simone for the great questions. And thank you for tuning in today for one of, if not our first ever solo episode. All right. If you're ready to get your book published, head to selfpublishing.com/course. All right. Go ahead and sign up today. We would love to help you with your book. All right. So go to selfpublishing.com/course for a limited time. We're offering this course only option. Okay. So it's an option if maybe you couldn't afford to work with us previously and you just want to get started, or you want to kind of dip your toes in the water and say, hey, this podcast has been helpful. I want to go a little bit further with you guys at Self-Publishing School and selfpublishing.com to get going on my book. And then if that goes well, cool, let's work together further. But either way, it starts with working with us. All right. So go to selfpublishingschool.com/course. Sign up today. I can't wait for you to publish your book. All right. And I can't wait to hear about it. I can't wait to buy a copy of that book on launch week. We announce these books every single week when they launch from folks in our community live on our group coaching calls. It's one of the highlights of my week. Hopefully, I'll be able to announce the launch of your book real soon. See you in the next episode.